Welcome to the Weekend Must Watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through the movies, TV, and entertainment that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co host Arturo Zurita, and joining me because the power of Christ does not compel him to watch The Exorcist because he heard the worst reviews possible. He decided to just save grace. He stayed at home. Well, actually, he didn't stay at home. He went to New York to watch much better movies
Yeah,
than the new Exorcist movie that is a trilogy, and there's nothing more horror or horrible than having to be at the beginning of a 2 hour trilogy of movies that they paid half a
right.
billion dollars for. That dude, it is worse than you can imagine. I know you're
Yeah.
not a big horror fan.
That's the first thing, right? And I'm also not a particularly big fan of David Gordon Green's takes on classic horror franchises.
Look, I don't hate him, but he's getting annoying. We're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about a lot of other film festival stuff, other movies that have been out here on Weekend Must Watch. How has your New York been going, though? Because I know that you're on your second week. I think you have like three more screenings left.
Yeah, I mean, this is getting to the slow part of the festival. This is like the part where like last year you left New York because the screenings started slowing down and stuff. So I've seen
It's
like
the coffee festival just happened, so that's how I know. I'm like, it's about that time.
that's your natural point
That's
cue
my
to leave the city. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's great. I've seen like the meat of the festival. So basically, most of the things that I was really excited for, I've had a chance to screen, and most of them have lived up to that excitement. I think while I really enjoyed TIFF this year, I was maybe missing a couple of those like top tier like stuff
we
that I
saved
really
them.
loved. We saved
Yeah,
them because we knew we'd be getting them at later festivals, and
yeah.
luckily I was able to catch up with some really good ones, see some ones that weren't at TIFF that are really good, and we'll get into all that on a separate New York Film Fest recap that we'll stream. But a
Hmm.
lot of movies that people can see locally now that maybe aren't quite up to the level of
I was about to
the
say,
Lincoln
yeah.
Center. Yeah,
Sometimes we question, is this really a weekend must watch when you must probably stay at home for a couple of these? There's a slew of movies that are out, and we have to begin with the one that obviously is bringing back a franchise that is over 50 years old. And I went back, I did my due diligence and I went back to go see the original Exorcist movie because there's a slew of them. We were on our Patreon hangout and they were letting me know, make sure you watch three. I'm like, three? And they're like, don't forget the prequel. I'm like, the prequel? Bro, this franchise is so crazy and I hate calling it a franchise because The Exorcist really is a classic movie,
right.
right? And it got like to use the words that the demon would say, hoard out into
Yeah,
all of these different installments. Like,
you're not a
did you
fan of like the Jaws franchise.
to me it ends at Jaws. It's
Yeah.
exactly, it would be like one of those where it's like we all hold that original so high and
Hmm.
maybe one or two sequels kind of stand out, but like you ignore those.
Yeah.
Everyone loves this one movie. This is the one that gets replayed in theaters for like those $5 Tuesdays, not the rest. Dude, this franchise is so weird. I've heard people say good things about 3. Do you know about this little twofer here about Exorcist Beginning and Exorcist Dominion, where
No.
they hired they hired the boy Paul Schrader to make a prequel movie? He turned it in. They said it was the most boring thing they've ever received. They recut it
What
up,
a goat.
released this version that was action packed. It bombed. They they rehired him and then had him release this. This is the type of sequels that we're dealing with The
Ugh,
Exorcist. They all
yikes.
tend to be kind of cursed, and we've been cursed with three of these: The Exorcist Believer, The Exorcist Deceiver, and then The Exorcist Deceiver sequel. You said you don't like David Gordon Green. Can you specify what is it exactly? Were you a fan of him early on in
I
his like
was. Yeah, I mean, he's
comedy?
look, there's sort of been like a common refrain going around on like film Twitter over the past couple of weeks that this dude's just got the craziest filmography. Is so all over the
It's
place,
not that
from
crazy.
like these like these really low key indie dramas, these big studio comedies, these random prestige dramas thrown in
Yeah.
there, and then his more recent foray into adapting classic horror franchises for the modern day. The thing about him is like I don't know if there's a distinct quality that I can put that crosses over his various films. He is a little bit chameleonic. He adapts to the different stories he tries to tell.
In a
I
good
just
way or a
know
bad way?
I don't know. Sometimes I like to see a little bit of my director's personality, but I think there's also room to be kind of adaptable. I just wish that there was a little more there. Like I just didn't. I don't think I found the same things about Halloween interesting as he did. Like there,
Yeah.
what was it? The second one I think had some interesting ideas around mob mentality before it kind of gets diverted as well. But for the most part, I was just not into the like dredging up of old ideas and I don't know. It's also because I had less interest in that franchise. For this, it just feels like he's doubling down on a lot of the more upsetting aspects of watching a exorcism type movie and not necessarily getting to
Yeah.
the unsettling core of it. But I didn't see it. You're the one who actually went to the movie theater and dealt with nearly 2 hours of Exorcist
It's
Believer.
kind of disgusting. And to take what you said, he'll double down on a lot of those franchise tropes that he's kind of become like the corporate man for, which is really
Mm-hmm.
weird. But then that mob mentality thing that you mentioned, Halloween Kills.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he heard the flack for it for the people who didn't like it. And he goes, "Okay, how about if I did mob mentality good?" He look, it has to be brought up that he also co-writes these with your boy who you really
Danny
love the series.
McBride. Yeah, I know. It's
We're
weird.
we're not against the idea of a comedy writer doing horror. We love Jordan Peele. Hell, the
Mm-hmm.
original Exorcist was a comedy writer who couldn't get it, so he did a horror script, and boom, you got a classic. But for a man who covered what 3 seasons now of religion in a satirical kind of parody way over on HBO with what's the show called?
Righteous Gemstones.
What is he doing here? This takes everything that made the first movie so great and throws it out the window. Like, you have to at least meet the movie halfway with The Exorcist being a very Catholic movie about
Mm-hmm.
Catholic priests exorcising a Catholic ritual, a Catholic demon. Like, it all falls into play. And this movie is trying to, like, I know there's a lot of baggage with this, but Last Jedi it in the worst way possible. That it doesn't matter what kind of demon it is. You can get a witch doctor, you can get a Pentecostal priest,
Yeah.
you can get anybody to come in as long as you've prayed in some capacity. If you believe in a higher being, you're technically all connected. Look, with everything that's going on in the world, I would hate to see David Gordon Green's opinion on world events thinking, why don't we just all get along? The pitch in this movie is ridiculous because it's a continuation of what happened in the original, which I highly recommend. You can watch that movie several times, the original Exorcist, and pick up on so many different things. This feels like what people complain about with Watchmen, that Zack Snyder read the comic book and he said, "Ooh, cool images," and forgot all of the subtext of it because so much of this movie is just imitating shots from the original. So much of this is kind of just updating it for no reason, where you have the two new main girls who are friends, but they're not really friends. The
Right.
movie does this a lot. It's supposed to be a new demon, but then you're bringing back an original actress in Burston to come
Mm-hmm.
back and say, "I remember you, demon." It's like, did she forget this is supposed to be a different one? The movie is very much all over the place. I'm sure you've heard that they've called this like a very pro life movie. I'm here to tell
Yeah.
you,
Well.
no, this
Yeah.
is trying to be that, and then it flakes out, and that's even more annoying, right? I think you and I get more annoyed with a movie that's pretending to say something but isn't really saying anything at
Absolutely.
all.
Yeah, David Ehrlich, I think, published one of the early reviews, and he said that it got an anti-abortion message, and then I saw a lot of people being like, "I don't really think you read the movie correctly."
Bro, he's a goofy. Like, first of all, right? It's simple math. We just said Danny McBride has been making fun of religion for the longest
Yeah.
time. Like, it's not that hard to see the IMDb trivia. When you watch the movie, it's just goofy the way they try to use that as a almost twist in
Hmm.
terms of this being a movie about how do you get someone who has no faith to become a believer? Is it their choice? And these Exorcist movies can be pretty funny because it's like, what choice do you really have when your daughter looks like that? The whole cast in here, I don't think compares to the original. You could say it's because of the direction. You could also say it's because of the script.
Mm.
The two girls do as much as they possibly can with the story that they have. But as much as I love Leslie Odom Jr., man, my man looked bored in the movie.
Mm.
He did not look like he was giving it his all. It felt like he had to rent a child. Like, he did not care for this girl turning into different things. When it comes to the horror, a lot of it is pretty standard. And just that idea that he keeps getting, the director, these big franchises that obviously you're going to get scrutinized when it's 50 years old and they're classics. But even more so when you get the ability to bring back a legacy actress. Like people are going to be like,
Hmm.
why you? You know? And
Yeah.
I don't think they use her at all. There is something that they do with her character. You sit with me in theaters, bro.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll huff, sometimes I'll puff, but I'm not usually that audible. It was bad, bro. It is a disgrace. It is a disservice. The act of making this movie is blasphemous, in my opinion. William Friedkin, rest in peace. I feel
Mm.
left the moment they dropped the trailer to this one, and I'm glad that he wasn't here to see it because there's that quote going around that he told a critic that he was going to be rolling in his grave, that the guy who made Pineapple Express was touching his series, and I kid you not. I've been going back and seeing so much of how he made that original, dude. Fantastic stuff. I want to make a whole video just on that. And I swear you could make a video of William Friedkin reviewing this new movie because everything they do here is everything he said he didn't want to do in the original. CGI smoke, head twists where they don't need to be. Hell, there is a moment in this movie where a character, bless her soul, endowed, man,
Yeah.
just tells you the whole purpose of the movie.
Uh,
And that was a whole big thing about the original Exorcist that he cut out all of those exposition sequences. This whole movie is the antithesis of what the first Exorcist was. It's not terrible if you don't care about the original, but like, what's the point if that's what you're continuing on? I got nothing else to say, Zach.
I heard they also reuse a lot of lines from the original Exorcist in ways that feel very ham-fisted. It just seems like the worst kind of, dredging up of the past. I
Like,
don't
there's
know,
a
man.
moment in the original when someone boxes.
Hmm.
So here, Leslie Odom Jr., a photographer, boxes. Like, why? That's the movie that you're dealing with here. I had really high expectations because I don't hate the guy. He
Yeah.
did interesting things with Halloween. I know you're never gonna please people, but this is just like so by the numbers, bland, and the worst thing that it could possibly be, boring. So if you're excited for Exorcist Believer, you've been deceived. You still have
Do
two
you
more in the horizon. I don't think they're gonna help fix this one, but
Yeah, do you think there's a world in which maybe we don't have two more? Like, is this such a
they
false
paid
start that
400 mil, bro.
they did? But like, are they gonna have to start fresh? Because it's not like it lit the box office on fire.
Absolutely not.
Made 26 domestically over the weekend, but
Uh
based
huh.
on the word of mouth, I would anticipate that number is going to drop a lot, especially when we consider what's about to come out in theaters, which we'll get into in a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit.
that's gonna be completely different. I think my biggest thing that stands out to me is the idea that this is Blumhouse,
Yeah.
and I look, I follow Blumhouse business wise. We both know that the joke is he gives you a pack of gum right for your budget, and because it's so low, he's always finding like profit. Because they dropped 400 mil, he's doing it the opposite of the Blumhouse model,
Hmm.
and I'd be scared, bro, because this is not gonna make it back.
No.
And pissing off people this early who love the franchise is not a good start because at least the first Halloween remake, the 2018 one, did have some fans kind of appreciating it. I don't know, bro. It's really bad. To put it bluntly, I have no faith in the rest
Yeah.
of them, but we'll see. Maybe it just needs a different director and
Yeah.
cast and script and everything.
Yeah, they could always bring in Tony Gilroy and Rogue One it or something, right?
Something like that, dude. But what is funny is that besides The Exorcist, there is actually a William Friedkin movie out that is not in theaters, sadly, but also shouldn't probably be because this is the last movie that William Friedkin made, the original director of The Exorcist, right before he passed, and it is out on Paramount Plus, Showtime. It's got one of those weird kind of releases because Paramount doesn't know how to push their movies.
Yeah.
Um, it does feel a lot like a TV movie, I will say that. But it also is one of those movies where it's breaking down or doing like a reboot take on this old kind of mutiny story, a court
Hmm.
like drama about a bunch of military army people
Yeah.
and whether the person who they're trying to say caused the mutiny or whether they were right to do so. So it's a very talky movie. The
Yeah.
big thing
Courtroom
about this,
drama
yeah,
kind
it's a
of
courtroom
thing.
drama, but boy, is it lit like a TV movie.
Hmm.
And the performances are very stilted, but they're all really good actors.
Mm.
So it's one of those where it's like, yes, it's its final movie, but I don't think this would have done good in theaters. This
Yeah.
definitely needed to be at home. I'm very curious to see the other ones because look, I did not realize that the Mutinyverse was this big. So I have not done my
Yeah,
due
and
diligence there, but I'd be curious to see a better version of this.
yeah, one of them was directed by Robert Altman,
Yeah,
who's
I'm looking at this right here. I'm like, I'm
yeah,
sure this is the one that holds it high. But
yeah.
look, it's an interesting concept, and it does. It has a really big cast. So if you're interested in all the people involved here, they do really good stuff. Jason Clark is literally just in his bag of interrogating people in court. That's all he's doing in 2023. But if you were curious in this one and wanted to see a William Friedkin movie instead of the bastardization that they did with Exorcist, go ahead and check that one out. The one that you did catch, you stayed at home. You don't like horrors, but I know you like horror comedies. You give those a little
Yeah.
bit of a try. Tell me what you thought about this one on Amazon Prime. Totally killer.
Totally killer. A pretty interesting mashup of genres because it is a movie about a serial killer coming to kill a bunch of teenagers around prom time, but it is also a time travel movie because this movie features Kiernan Shipka's character traveling back to when her mom was 17 years old and her friends were all terrorized by the Sweet 16 killer. So
Yeah.
it's kind of got a couple things going on at once. It feels kind of very like a Happy Death Day core or something
Thank
like
you.
that.
Yeah, and we're
Yeah,
fans of that.
we are, and I don't know if it's necessarily quite that level of like blending of genres and making it fun but also leaning into the tropes of horror, but
Mhm.
it gets pretty close and it's pretty entertaining. I didn't have a bad time with this one. Shipka is really fun in the lead role, kind of balancing the whole like urgency of the situation with trying to explain it. There's a bunch of fun other actors that I like in this film. Uh, what's her name? Liana Liberato, who
Yeah, surprisingly,
uh,
with a much like a side character, we've been rooting for her to be in a lot more like feature films as a lead.
mhm,
But I guess we'll take what we could get.
exactly right. But I think it's got a fun like sense of place. It's a fun sense of humor. It's pretty entertaining, and it's not like it doesn't skimp out. I think on the story, so I think it's a good streaming release. Like this is to me, this is like the upper tier of that kind of like straight to Amazon Prime kind of deal that you get.
I agree. There's moments in there with the time travel that it kind of comes off a little corny, but I think a lot of the comedy that what's her name? I always call her Sabrina Teenage Witch. Kiernan brings
Yeah.
into it. Like there'll be these little like goofy walks that she does that are super awkward, but she makes it work. Especially because it's got that Back to the Future bit where it's like she's hanging out with her mom a lot, but the
Hmm.
mom doesn't know that that's her daughter. Obviously, she thinks she's like a psychic. I think the killer story is pretty interesting for what they bring into play with it because it's like there's podcasters involved. There's also like a lot of grudges because of people who grew up in this small town.
Hmm.
And also comparing it to another one. I don't know if you caught VHS 85, another movie
Nope.
dealing with horror in the 80s. At least this one has a lot more fun with it. Like this is a
Hmm.
movie that is taking into account the differences between the 2000s to this.
Hmm.
One of my favorite running gags in this one would be the fact that she just goes into the school and they give her a schedule. She's like, "You're not going to say anything about this," and it's like a continual thing where she realizes nobody cared in the 80s.
Yep.
Whereas something like VHS 85 kind of it feels like people who grew up in the 80s and are like thinking back on it and
Hmm.
pretending to have taken place during that time. Um, yeah, so between the two horror movies that are out, I think this one handles it a lot better, even though VHS 85 comes from a lot of really good directors. I don't know if you've ever been a
Yeah.
fan of the series, but like when you have Scott Derrickson, David Bruckner specifically, because I thought The Night House was incredible. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I used to be a really big fan of this franchise, and it's been slowly deteriorating for me.
Hmm.
And it's bad because I can't even say this is the worst one. I'm just not impressed anymore.
Yeah.
It's become more of like a gimmick. This one is out on Shutter. It's again doing the same thing that all the previous ones have done, and where it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different stories. Sometimes they tie in, sometimes they don't, sometimes they are forced to.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, between these two 1980s horror movies, I would definitely go with Totally Killer.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with those like anthology films, particularly the ones that take material from a bunch of different directors is that like some directors come ready to play and come with something really cool, and some are kind of just going through the motions and fulfilling their obligation, right? So I feel like
Yeah.
consistency of quality has always been an issue in any kind of like anthology short film feature where there's multiple directors involved.
It also just feels not a grift, but it feels like a bit, you know, like they know they can't get
Yeah.
feature film, so they're just kind of like submit something so that we could add a sponsor on it type stuff. Like they're not really that cohesive anymore. It just feels
Hmm.
like they need to turn something in for Shutter because they've locked down this massive deal.
Hmm.
And I don't know. It kind of feels like if you need a side job, this has become a series where it's directors doing side jobs,
Yeah.
and I don't know. That kind of sucks.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, there could be a really cool version where directors are
Yeah.
like trying out the ideas that they don't know if they could sustain for a full feature, or experimenting with stuff. Or, you know, you look at it even like Grindhouse and all the features that have spawned off of the shorts from there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, you know, you have that requires directors really bringing their best stuff.
The difference is also like the first one I think had a much better display of like here are people who are really starting. I think it should be more of a
Yeah.
starting point
Up
than
and
trying
comer
to
thing.
like give a lot of money to somebody who you just want to see them make a short. I'm like, but they're not gonna put all their effort into it. I don't even want to say it's like an effort thing. It just hasn't been hitting. Like I thought the first one was fantastic, and since
Hmm.
then they've kind of gone a little bit down. But there you go. Who would have thought 6 VHS movies? But the one I gotta pick is totally killer over on
Nice.
Amazon Prime. The last two things that we have over here, you were telling me about Strange Way of Life,
I was.
and you got to see it at the New York Film Festival. I think they just played that by itself, or you got to talk with him.
No, it was just that by itself.
You got to see him though. He was with you
He
at
was
the Irishman premiere.
Yeah, he was walking down the street past the Directors Guild, so I
Yeah,
did clock Almodovar. But yeah, you caught up with Strange Way of Life as well.
bro, I needed a cleansing after Exorcist. I looked at the schedule right here. I'm like, oh, okay, we got this playing in the theater next door. I went there. I caught this first one because they're playing it with his other one that we were mentioning with Tilda Swinton. So they
Human
play the
Voice.
first, yeah, first 30 minutes, and then right afterwards they cut to Human Voice. But it was terrible, bro. Like the credits rolled. Sony logo comes back up, and then the Human Voice is completely crapped. I'm like, bro, I'm just gonna go watch this home on Mubi if I wanted to. Terrible release there. I don't know if that happened to everybody who's been watching this, but I do find it really goofy to pay a whole ticket for like an hour long screening. I
If
mean, I guess
that.
like if that, right?
Yeah.
Look, AMC was combining them together. I think in a little bit this is gonna be out digitally anyway, but I hear what you're saying about it being produced by a fashion company,
Saint Laurent.
but they look slick, dude.
They do. That's the thing. I mean, they probably look too slick to be these kind of like
Ooh.
Wild West cowboys.
Well,
I
they're gay
love
Wild West cowboys, so
right,
maybe that's
right.
why.
Well,
No, his
good,
green jacket,
well
bro.
groomed.
Well
That I was
groomed and
about to
everything.
say. The green jacket is beautiful. Obviously, he's got the
The
iconic
felt and the
scarf, and
oh,
yeah, everybody looks great in this movie.
I did notice I clocked in the credits that there was a lot of people who are also Almodovar. I don't know how they are related to him, so it very
Hmm.
much seemed like a family project. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that he is also gay. So this being like a very
Yeah,
much gay centric story between two men who have had their own lives. You know, they have children who then are reunited as they reminisce on the past. I think you had called it. You had a Brokeback.
yeah.
The
I mean, it is sort of like Cliff Notes Brokeback, right?
kind of like that. I'd seen someone else that said it. I thought it was you. Someone else had made like a pun about it with it being like the Western version. I thought it was pretty funny. But you know, as an exercise and given in being given money by a big brand to make a
Yeah.
chart, this is great. Again, kind of like the VHS ones. This is something where it's like a lot of people can see this and be like, "Oh, it's a very interesting short." I think you
Hmm.
and I can kind of see like this is the best version of being given money to make a commercial,
Yeah.
but were still able to make a narrative out of it. I think we are fully in that world. You know, we live in the Barbie. We're living in a Barbie world at this point in
Hmm.
time where that is both IP, but then now an original screenplay that's going to be up in contention.
Hmm.
I think we're riding that line of adding narrative to a commercial has become the new original story because somebody
Yeah.
has to fund it, I guess. And we're
Right.
not like other. I mean, I don't even know if he applies to that because what country is this?
I mean, is it? I don't know because
It's Spain. I don't know how
yeah,
Spain does their stuff over there, but
yeah,
like I get it in America because you're not gonna make a movie unless someone's funding it, and it ain't gonna be
right.
the government. But I don't know. This just reminds me a lot of when we're at TIFF and we see that what's the commercial everybody clap for?
The Bulgari ad with Zendaya and Hathaway.
Because it literally says it's a film by
Zendaya,
Paulo,
yeah,
right? So it's
yeah,
like
exactly.
it's already trying to pretend like it's not a commercial but a
Right,
film. So
right.
this is
Like
the best version of that.
the great directors have been working with fashion brands for a long time, and sometimes it is just on commercials, but if they can use that funding to fund their stories and fund different types of narratives, that's kind of cool. And
So be it, right?
this one is super streamlined in a way that maybe like doesn't give you the full Almodovar experience, but it's still like it feels like the worlds that he creates, particularly when you talk about like the colors, like it's a good match
Outstanding.
of it's a good match for him because he is a director who makes these really vibrant films, so he's able to utilize Saint Laurent in that way. Does the story maybe feel a bit lacking? Sure, it's like 12 minutes long, but
It's
like
very true.
it's also like it's a chance to like live in the world that a director like Pedro
Yeah.
Almodovar can a director like him can create. And I feel the same way when I watch some of the Wes Anderson shorts, less so the Netflix stuff,
Mm.
but more so the stuff that he's done for, I think it's like Gucci. He did Castello Cavalcanti, and there's that H&M ad that he did, which is like a beautiful little Christmas story.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes you can use those endorsements to make some
That's a
beautiful
good
art.
one. I think Wes is one of the best ones of being able to take a commercial and also, and Spike has done some too. No, Spike
Yeah,
Jones.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's not bad. It's just I see that trend growing even more. It's always been there, but it's like it's becoming more apparent, especially when you have a theatrical release. That's just insane to me. Like a nationwide theatrical release for a short.
yeah,
I see Josh already said that it is out on digital. If you want to see it in theaters, I guess the colors really pop. But yeah,
yeah.
for a whole check-in or $15, probably not. You are a big soccer fan, though, so I
Yeah,
know that while you had caught this one, you did catch a couple of episodes. I caught one episode, and
nice.
then the memes that were coming out uh,
Yeah.
for the new Beckham series on Netflix. Tell me.
Yeah, so I've only caught the first two of what are 4 episodes of the limited series Beckham over on Netflix, and it provides a in-depth look into the life of the iconic soccer player, fashion mogul. I don't know if he qualifies as
Spice
a
husband.
mogul. He's Spice husband for sure. The sportier Spice or the less sport. I don't know. But yeah.
The other one goes
Uh,
faster.
um, you know, obviously we are in an era where there is just like a plethora of these types of in-depth looks into different athletes or iconic entertainers. The documentary industry is rife with this style of thing, and sometimes the breadth of a documentary like this is good because it allows you the ability to do deep dives on
Hmm.
different eras of a person's life, and sometimes it's a little bit indulgent. And I think there's times where it feels both in this too, because Beckham is a guy who has had a long enough career that there are different phases that are all interesting enough to merit their own deep dive. There
Yeah.
are aspects though of watching this where there does feel like a resistance to really get super deep. I don't know if it's because Beckham is not a guy who is used to this type of like introspective analysis. Both he and his wife Victoria Posh Spice talk about how like they've repressed these memories for so long that they don't know how to talk about them. There's several
Yeah.
times where he's kind of like, yeah, I don't know what to say. And the thing that is at least helpful about it is that they have so many good interviews, and sometimes the most insightful people are not David himself or Victoria, but like his teammates or his coaches or like the staff receptionist at Manchester United. And some of that stuff is really cool. I also really liked the use of the Interatron. That's the like famous Errol Morris technology where the documentary subject is able to look directly into the camera. They basically do like a teleprompter thing where they
Okay.
project the image, and they use the Interatron to show a bunch of players and coaches old footage of games in the past, so you see them like watching and their faces react. And for a guy like David Beckham, who I feel like maybe struggles to articulate everything he's feeling, getting just like his instant reaction to watching old videos in extreme close-up, I thought was some of the most effective stuff in the documentary. Like he's expressive in a way that he just like, you know, as a reaction that he is not as expressive in an interview. So there are insightful aspects to it. I still think there's like moments where it felt like it could have gone deeper. I'm curious to see what the next final two, I guess, episodes have in store. But you know, for people who are interested in his life and want to know more, I definitely think it's a useful documentary with a lot of like valuable behind the scenes stuff included. There's so much archival video being shown.
Yeah. On top of that, isn't he in another Netflix documentary that's gonna come out? I feel like
Is he?
there's,
Does he just
yeah,
have that
like
Netflix deal?
yeah, like they announced Beckham, and then they're like, oh yeah, and then there's another one coming out. I don't have it on me at the moment, but watch, like in a week or two, there's something else that's still on the horizon. Could be Pasha's, I have no idea, but yeah, no, it looked pretty interesting. I know at the beginning from the first episode I saw, he's like, my dad, he got, or his dad or his grandpa, he's like, they got everything. So then he's got
Yeah.
all these archives of every single moment in his career coming up. I thought that was pretty cool. And
Hmm.
look, I'm not calling him anything when he was young. Mama had a glow up, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I there's also a lot to be attributed to just how bad that like early 90s fashion was. Like
Yes,
once he got with Posh and they started like actually paying attention to
it
his
had
hair and
to have.
stuff,
It
it got
had
a
to have
lot
been,
better.
bro. Because like even right now, like in his teens and in his 20s, you look at him, you're like, cut to him right now in the present, because he looks slick in the present. When
Yeah.
he opens that door, yeah, yeah. So good on him. It makes sense, you know. Netflix is the way to go for a lot of these people to make
Yeah.
their kind of just telling their stories, so that they have the authorship of how it's being told on their budget. So that's all the stuff that we had this week. For next week, it's pretty blank as we look forward to the week. We only got one. The one and only Taylor Swift coming out. If she's not in an NFL game, it's because she's going to be in a theater near you. No AMC stub. No Regal Club. I forget the Regal one. No Cinemark. No Marcus Theaters. They don't even have one. Nothing can get you a free ticket to this. You need
Mm-mm.
to pay out of pocket, and you need to pay soon, because at least near me, they've all been sold out. Not just
Yeah.
the IMAXs. Like the Rinky Dink Theater in the back is completely full. All they've left is the handicap seats. But you got a BYOB for this, bro. They're
Hmm.
like the whole. I thought it was gonna be one day. The whole weekend has been booked for this.
Yeah, and look, if it's going to be this successful, it's going to be several weekends, right? The theaters are not
You
going
think?
to. I would not be
Like
surprised
a
to see
Bieber?
this. Yeah, I mean, look, this is probably going to be one of the highest grossing films of the year,
Didn't they say
and
already did Endgame pre-sales?
something like that, right? Like, and particularly because she was able to strike this deal exclusive or like directly with the theaters, you know, I don't
Damn.
see any reason to not be able to continue that relationship. It's going to be very fascinating just from an industry standpoint to see like how well this one does, how long they try to keep this one in the theaters, particularly those big IMAX screens. We also got recently the announcement of the Beyonce
The
concert
Beyonce one too, yeah.
movie one. Are we going to get like several weeks of Taylor Swift leading into several weeks of Beyonce at the box office? I don't know, but it could be a thing that shapes the live event film scape for a little while. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of people try to follow this model.
Yeah, yeah. I'm curious, right? I'm always excited to see how they capture the performances, because obviously nothing's gonna replace being at the show. But there's always
Mhm.
something special. You know, you could go to a sporting event, but I also love just being able to see the pitch count and everything. So how they directed, maybe even getting some insights to it, because this is a whopping 2 hours and 43 minutes. I know her
Yeah,
show is long, so like I'm pretty sure it could just be a recording of the show.
I think
But it'd
that's
be
what it
cool.
is. Yeah,
It'd be cool to see some insights and
some
something else. You know.
behind the scenes. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be curious to compare this one with the Beyonce one. That'll be, very fun to talk about in terms of box office and everything else. But just as films in general, do you have any concert films that stand out? I know we recently got the IMAX release for Stop
Yeah,
Making
for Stop
Sense.
Making Sense, obviously. Honestly, I know we were just talking about Beyonce, but her last one, Homecoming on Netflix, was pretty incredible.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. We are going to talk about Martin Scorsese in a little bit. He's obviously the guy who's done several music documentaries and a couple concert films, most notably The Last Waltz, that one
Hmm.
with the band, which another one worth pointing out. But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I necessarily watch the two often. Oh, you know what's one that just comes to mind is
Hmm.
the LCD Sound System Shut Up and
Ooh,
Play the Hits, their retirement tour concert before they unretired. That's a great one.
nice. I'm gonna go with Justin Bieber's "Never Say Never," and the One Direction one. Oh,
you just
but
love cute boy singing groups
that's what it
or
is. I also
yeah,
think that
pop
they're both
sex.
directed by In the Heights, if I'm not mistaken.
No, is it John Chu? No.
I can't even remember. I'll have to search them up. But I'm curious for it. I think it's a very interesting genre to be able to have out there. It spices things up. I think you're able to bring more people to the theater. So I'm curious how that plays out for theaters next week. Because other than that, there is absolutely nothing. So we move on to the upcoming and news of the week. One of which we were learning even more about. I'll let you take this one away because a writer strike ended just for another strike to begin here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a pretty interesting development for a couple of reasons. Paramount, as part of a move to tease the upcoming Mean Girls musical release on Paramount Plus, and also in
It's
celebration,
Paramount Plus.
I believe, maybe it is theaters. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Okay, but
Um,
I have heard about that they're taking the Broadway musical and adapting it.
Yeah. So partly to do that, and partly also just to celebrate Mean Girls Day on
Shut up. Shut
on
up.
October 3rd, they released the original Mean Girls film in 23 parts on TikTok. A lot of people who are in the Writers Guild or Writers Guild adjacent did notice, though, that this is a tricky move because the because of the length of these clips, they technically qualify under a certain like a talk show clip subsection of the Writers Guild contracts, which means they're not owed residuals for playing those clips. So a lot of people viewed this as another way for studios to get around the new streaming residuals that have been added to the Writers Guild contracts. I don't know how nefarious of a move you think it is. I just think it's interesting to note that that's like
It's an interesting
potentially a strategy some
potential.
people will be looking to exploit.
Yeah, it's the potential of it. I don't know if they did. I mean, I don't like Paramount, so we screw Paramount. So I'm gonna say yes, 100%. They were doing it on purpose. But it's the idea of like everyone's on edge right now, and they're looking at what's the loophole that a company could take. It's still promotion. That's been a really big thing
Right.
right now about like TikToks being reacted to and whether you can copyright them. Are they taking from you if it's on a completely different platform? If people are viewing this, whether it was post if it wasn't posted up by Paramount and somebody else posted it, they still wouldn't have been getting the money, right?
Yeah.
Because on TikTok, it's a completely different form of uploads. What is funny to me is that Paramount, if you remember, I always say this story about how they sued YouTube in the early days because they're like, too much of our clips are being posted on YouTube.com. And when they took them to court, it turned out that Paramount had told their own employees to post Family Guy and The Daily Show because it was actually helping their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of behind the scenes when it comes to this. I think it's interesting. I also think it's funny because besides how you and I watch movies in theaters, we have a new Scorsese coming out that's 4 hours long, 3 hours, however long it is,
Three
right?
and a half.
We know that the last Scorsese had people making Netflix guides on how to watch it on a day by day basis.
Mm-hmm.
Kids today do not care how you consume; they consume differently, and the joke is that they consume it in 23 parts. They're
Mm-hmm.
you know they're literally catching up on iconic stuff, on series, on mangas, animes, all this stuff through TikTok in bits and pieces, right? Um, I've, back in my day, I remember catching movies on YouTube in like a section of like 10 different things that were
Yeah.
uploaded while they were still there. I don't know, it's an interesting approach for a studio to kind of chop something up in a way that technically they're only mimicking because people were pirating the content.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is like an official pirated version of it from the company.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's funny. But
It is, but it is a interesting note because it is the studios trying to meet the consumers where they are, right? Like they see this thing happening outside of their control,
yeah,
and they're trying to steer it in a direction that actually benefits them. So,
exactly.
I don't know, like maybe this is something that we're going to see more of in the future, even though I think where it gets concerning, right, is if we're going to start seeing with much newer properties, right? Like I don't know how
Exactly.
much business Mean Girls is doing, however many years out on TikTok.
I mean, you telling me it's got a national day? I expect a little bit, if
It's
they got
October
one of those.
3rd.
Sheesh. Okay, stop trying to make it happen. Well, I'm looking forward to Killers of the Flower Moon on TikTok through Apple's account. But let's move.
How many Quibbies long is Killers of the Flower
It's
Moon?
disgusting. Did you see Roku got rid of their entire Quibi collection?
Wait, no.
Quibi,
Where can I watch
Quibi,
Max Landis's canceled show?
the doll one. Quibi got rid of it all because they were like, we need that WB tax cut, and we're just not gonna hold on to it. So they just like they literally deleted everything. I'm trying to see if I can find where it was. Yeah, take my word for it. Believe me,
Damn.
that's my source.
Damn.
They got rid of all of them so that they wouldn't have to pay residuals to a lot of the people just for hosting them there, and it wasn't making them enough. So Roku's like, we're just gonna continue investing in this original properties like the what's the one that you just caught that you hated?
Wait, which one did I hate?
The one from Tribeca. Because y'all thought the one from TIFF was decent for Roku. That Harry Potter was in.
The Chelsea Peretti first time female director one.
And
Yeah,
that
you're
one,
right.
yeah,
You're
if
right.
I'm not mistaken,
That's
that one got picked up.
Roku original.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it makes sense there. I'm just worried that that is a new way to consume things in bits and pieces. You and I are here promoting 3.5 hour movies.
And doing hour-long podcasts.
That's crazy. Other than that, though, let's move on to the next subject that we have, which is a breakdown of the 59th Chicago International Film Festival. Zach is wrapping up New York, and the beautiful thing about this is that if you're not on a coast, you can be right here in the Midwest breaking down some of the best movies. It's going to be taking place October 11th through the 22nd, so we wanted to do a little preview kind of breaking down everything that you need to know about the festival. I've been going to it for about the last decade, I want to say. I remember the first time that I went was when they screened La La Land. And now
Ooh.
we were covering it there as press. And one of the best things about this is that they have a fantastic lineup. So, as Zach has been saying, we will go to Toronto, but if we know that something's going to be playing at our home festival, we'll save it. And damn, do they get the hits. So, us being in Toronto, we were missing a lot of really big movies, but that's because we were trusting the programmers back home. One of my favorite things that they pick up a lot here, and we have a whole article for it, is
Over
a
on
lot of.
theatzshow.com.
Yeah, we have. I got the wrong one over here, so technically those are my most anticipated, which we have a list for. But it would be the international submissions. I really like that. There's a lot of really big ones, but a majority of the time they do a fantastic job finding movies that have not premiered in the United States. So you'll be able to see like Argentina's pick, pictures of Ghosts, which I was just able to catch. A lot of the things that may end up being the top 5 movies that are going to get that international spot. One of the ones that I'm really looking forward to is Totem, which just got announced as
Yeah.
Mexico's pick, and the director's going to be there to talk about it. You had just seen the taste of things, and you were telling me,
do.
bro,
Yeah.
this should have been France's pick. For every year, France has like 2 movies that people are divided on, and you said this was the right call.
I personally, I kind of like this one a little bit more than Anatomy of a Fall. I know I'm in the majority there, but this was like a warm meal of a movie, pun I guess intended.
Yeah, they've got 3 screenings for this, so I'm hoping to catch at least one of them. There's no
Yep.
press one yet, but you told me eat before you go. I'm gonna make sure
Oh,
I
yeah.
eat before I go, and I'm gonna make sure I go to the bathroom before I see Perfect Days, the toilet movie that I have heard nothing but praise about from everybody.
Yep.
And y'all keep telling me it's just a guy cleaning toilets.
Yeah, shout out to our patron Connor who saw this at his own local film festival down in Charlotte, and he's a big proponent of the film Patterson as we both are, and he said that this movie might be more Patterson than Patterson, which
That's the new phrase.
I gotta agree.
Perfect Days.
Yeah.
All right, so this is another one I'm really excited for. Zone of Interest and continuing with the international Oscar submissions. I know you just caught this, and you told me you were floored by it. So
Yeah.
this one also sold out really fast. So if I had to give other picks for the international stuff, Teacher's Lounge. This was one that you and I were
Yes.
able to catch at TIFF. This
Hmm.
one's fantastic. It's going to be a tight race, but I have this in my top 10 out of
Yeah.
the international
I
picks.
I don't want to like doom this movie to like runner up status, but I could see this being like one that misses the cut and we get really upset about. You know what I'm
Right?
trying to say? Yeah.
I will say though, there's one I would be upset, but I'd be even more upset with this final pick that I have here. Another one
Yeah.
we caught in Toronto that is playing here, and I highly recommend it. We had a press screening today. I didn't go to it, but I almost was. Four Daughters is an incredible movie, a hybrid documentary that's looking at these uh, this mother and her two daughters, and because two of them are missing to complete the four, they cast two actresses to play them, and thus their story is even more impacting because they're not sitting down like a talking head documentary. They're sitting down directing their past memories, bro. It is a fantastic movie. This is definitely one that I think should secure the top five. But there's a lot of these and more. Like I said, if you go catch the article that we have over on the A to Z show.com, you will see a lot of the picks. Even Godland. This premiered last year. So forget this year. You might be catching some in Chicago that won't premiere till the following year. Like I said, we also have our most anticipated movies. But to give you a quick breakdown of how the festival works, uh, Chicago kind of has the theaters all over the place. So one of the main theaters that they're doing right now is the AMC New City, which is really nice theater. It used to be an ArcLight, but it's not at the AMC River East. You've been to New City. We went to go see that Crawdads movie there. Uh, so you've been there. You know what it's like.
We
There's
took a
no
picture there.
recliners. Yeah, there's no recliners. But that's because the AMC River East just added recliners, and boy, are they beautiful, bro.
Mm.
So there's less seats over there, and there's a lot of construction. So the main hub is gone. This is the new hub, but at least the trains go everywhere. So
Mm.
you can go from this new city to the Gene Siskel Film Center, what has become one of my favorite theaters to go to if there's a movie there. A lot of the days that are being scheduled for screenings, I want to do like full out days there. They have comfortable seats. You get to see a lot of the history of him as a critic as well, because obviously everybody knows Roger Ebert. But Gene, even with his crazy ideas, crazy wacky reviews that I may not agree with, he left a legacy, and it's a beautiful theater there.
Yeah.
Obviously, we also have the iconic Music Box, which have you been to?
Just outside of, man, and I haven't seen a movie there yet.
We haven't been to a screening. All right, we're gonna have to go because the Music Box, if you have not been to, while it is the most uncomfortable chairs you could possibly imagine, bro, they have an organ player.
Mm.
It just looks beautiful. The architecture, and this is where they're having a lot of their opening night films. That is where they're having the block party, which is a thing that they started last year, where they're shutting down the entire block. They're doing trivia.
Very
Dark
cool.
Matter Coffee is a big coffee place here, and they do a director's cut blend. I didn't get the poster from last year, bro. That poster from last year for the Director's Cut blend was beautiful. But you'll be able to win prizes. They're going to be doing a bunch of stuff there. And a lot of the Music Box screenings are also where they're going to have a lot of directors. We still don't have any actors, obviously, this year because of the strikes that's still going on. But they're going to be doing a lot of tributes. I personally am really looking forward to Saltburn because she's going to be there.
Ooh,
And
Emerald Fennell.
I'm a big Fennel fan, and they're gonna honor her there, so she's gonna be doing a whole Q&A. So do yourself a favor, check out a lot of these theaters. Some of the other ones that I have that I'm looking out for is the Chicago History Museum. I've never been to their screening room, so that's gonna be really interesting. And our Museum of Contemporary Art. So again, there's a lot of buses that are going around these, but just know that AMC New City is going to be the main hub. I highly recommend Gene Siskel. And if you're in Chicago, you got to go to the Music Box. So you got a whole breakdown of the theaters there. But the most important part is the movies, right? Let's break down what the best movies are out here. The Boy and the Heron is already sold out. Dream Scenario, I think, is already sold out. And even Monster, what I would consider probably the best one that I've seen outside of Chicago that I would highly recommend. All of these are top picks. If you can rush for those movies or if they add another screening, keep an eye out. Because there were a lot of movies at Toronto and at New York that they were
Hmm.
adding last minute. Like you saw
Yeah.
Poor Things and you came out and you're like, bro, this is really good. I wake up the next morning, they had Poor Things. You were really confused on Memory. Now I get to be confused with you because they just
Yeah.
announced it.
Please help me figure it out.
I am looking forward to so many movies here.
Is Chicago a festival that likes to announce late added screenings or late added encore screenings? Because I know New York, they basically leave the last couple days a bunch of slots open and then announce like encore screenings of these four favorites. Come grab
Yeah.
last minute tickets.
They'll have a best of fest. My only worry right now is that with the new theater that they have,
Hmm.
New City is like so much smaller, bro. Like you're talking what
Ah,
was double the seats over at River East. I feel like it's going to be a lot shortened. So we'll see how
interesting.
that works. But to wrap this up, let me go through my top 10 picks that I'm looking forward to here. Saltburn. Like I said, this is screened at a couple of places, but if you wanted to see this movie with Q&A with Emerald Fennel, I would highly recommend it. I've heard some really fantastic things about it, and you and I, we're fans of her. We're some of the we're on that 50% half that likes that the fact that she won the Oscar for it, while a lot of other people don't.
Yeah.
All of Us Strangers, which you can attest because I believe you've seen it. A lot of our friends have said that this is one of the best. You've seen this already, right?
I have, yeah.
Okay, that this is one of the best of the year. You would agree?
I'm not as hot on it as a lot of other people, but like I don't know. I'm
I'm
made of
watching in a
stone.
couple days. Look,
There were
look at this.
so many tears, so much sniffling around me. And our boy Andres said this is his favorite film of the year
I
so
saw.
far. So
Yeah.
look, maybe I'm going to be on the wrong end of this one. I didn't think it was bad at all. I thought it was good. I just didn't like have a revelation type of experience watching. I just didn't cry. I don't know.
It's a,
Maybe I'm broken.
wherever you fall in it, if you
Yeah.
can catch it at a festival, it's the best place because this is going to get a very limited theatrical. I've been seeing the
Yeah.
day 2024 float out. So wherever you stand on it, it's better for you to watch it and think it's okay than to not watch it and just be waiting for it. So I still have it in my top 10.
Yeah. I think Devesh saw it at the London Film Festival and said it's really beautiful.
There you
So
go.
there we
Yeah,
go.
dope. Another one that I know you're about to catch in New York, which I kind of snatched from the premiere that was going to be Chicago's The
Yeah.
Killer. This one's going to be over at the Music Box, which is going to give it that very much eerie feeling for the screening. The new David Fincher movie starring Michael Fassbender. Very excited for that. May December, which I know you also caught at New York. I'm very excited for this.
Yes.
This will be on Netflix right away, but I think they may have some sort of Q&A for this. I would definitely seek this out because you may not be able to see it in a theater unless you catch it at a festival.
Hmm.
Anatomy of a Fall, which I know you were saying is really good,
Yes.
but you didn't think should have been Francis' pick.
I mean,
It
look,
will.
they're both great. So I definitely see that one too.
This is the one. I just need to see it already because I keep hearing
Yeah.
so many people discuss this and the 50 cents of it all. I just need to know what it is. This one sold out immediately. It is going to be on one of the opening nights. It does come out 2 weeks later, but like, damn, bro, the anticipation for this movie is high.
Hmm.
Those would be my top five most anticipated. My most anticipated kind of lower tier ones that not many people know about. The Hypnosis. It's got my boy. I don't even know his name, dude. Is it Andre? There we go. From The Worst Person in the World, we had just seen him in another movie, and he's still not credited here. He was in
Royal Hotel, right?
yeah, The Royal Hotel.
Yeah.
This man kills it in every performance that he's in. He's in this movie called The Hypnosis that's also kind of supposed to be like a comedy. I, I can't wait to catch this one.
Nice.
Another international submission is Sweet Dreams that I've been hearing there's some crazy things about. There was this one review that had called it like Wes Anderson if it was like very absurd. The poster looks dope. I have it on my radar,
Hmm.
as well as these two over here. Portugal submitted two movies, Bad Living and Living Bad. This reminds me of what's that Jessica Chastain?
The disappearance of Eleanor Rigby, him and her.
Yes,
Yes.
but from the perspective of I guess the maids, and then the perspective of the people who are rich. One of these got submitted or ended up becoming the official selection. They are playing both of these back to back at the Gene Siskel. Very much looking forward to these. I just think it's a really interesting and cool concept. So hopefully I get to see this and people add it to the radar. And to wrap it up, my final one would be Departing Seniors, a Chicago owned. I remember my first Chicago festival, bro. This was the short that she had released. I think it was at Chicago Critics. So to see her now have her feature, I think it's gonna be really cool. I've been hearing really good stuff about this because I think it's screened already at some other places, but it's going to be opening night at the Music Box Theater. They're going to be having a whole party there. So those would be my top 10. Like I said, over on the A to Z show, we have all of the international picks if you wanted to see them. We have all of our most anticipated, but we just wanted to make a video kind of breaking down all of the stuff to look forward to if you are looking to visit the Chicago Festival. Because, like Toronto, Sundance, New York, you got to hype up the city. You don't become
Absolutely.
that big festival unless you start getting people from outside. I think
Mhm.
that's when it really becomes a big one. And I think the way that they continue to expand it would be really cool to just see more people from out of town come in. But what they need to bring back, dude, I went to go see a comedy show at the Chicago Theater, and I
Hmm.
walk in and I see a Chicago Film Festival banner from like the 90s. I
Ooh.
walk in there when I tell you this thing mops the Paramount from South by. Ooh, we have such a beautiful theater here. And we used to host screenings there. We need to bring that back, Chicago. We
we
need
used
that.
we used to have real movie
We
theaters.
used to have, yeah, that was a night out at the movies. Better than that, these are all the picks. If you all have any questions, if you're joining the festival, definitely hit us up here on this video. You
Yeah.
could hit me up over at LME Movies. You can hit up Zach. Zach's still going to give you good movie advice because he's caught a lot of these. Obviously, our letterboxes will be below, so you can catch some of the movies as we're catching them in real time, and even some of the stuff that we've already logged before. So if you're interested in joining the Chicago Festival, hit us up with any of your
Yeah.
thoughts. And don't forget to pick up a very juicy beef.
I'll throw out a couple other just quick shout outs because like Chicago, there's some festivals closer to my
Mhm.
area that are getting started soon as well. The Montclair Film Festival, Montclair, New Jersey, always gets a pretty cool selection. They're having a tribute to Martin Scorsese, hosted by Stephen
They get good stuff,
Colbert
dude.
this week, as well as some films that we liked from Toronto, including Dream Scenario, Holdovers, May, December, a whole bunch of really good films. They get great stuff over at Montclair. And then also down in Philly, the Philadelphia Film Festival is later in October, and tickets, I believe, go on sale for that one tomorrow. So
Oh, damn.
not too late to get in pretty early and catch some of the most exciting releases of the next few months if you happen to be in those areas.
Yeah, I got to do Philly. I've done Philly, but I haven't done Philly. It was
Yeah,
the
the
virtual year,
virtual.
you know?
Yeah.
It don't count. But again, that's another one where you mentioned those two, and I know you've been to Montclair. I know you've even worked on some stuff in Montclair.
Yeah.
It's like the theaters that make it. You know, every single festival that we cover here on Intercut, what we end up bringing back is, you know, the memories, the feeling. Every single festival has its own little vibe.
Hmm.
Again, even with these festivals that we're talking about here, shout out your favorite festival down below because, like you said, um, what Connor had his that was playing a lot of
The
really
Charlotte
big
Film
movies,
Festival, I
and you
think.
think
Yeah.
you think you need to make it out to New York or Toronto. You don't have to cross borders. Chances are you may have your St. Louis festival or the New Orleans festival, the Atlanta festival. A lot of these really big festivals for your hometown that would be hosting a lot of these movies. So it's just about checking them out. So really good picks there. So if you have anything that you recommend, let us know down below. But other than that, Zach, it's time to give a shout out to the inner cutie patrons who allow us to go to these festivals to be with.
Absolutely. The biggest shout out that we can to those wonderful people who support our show, the Inner Cuties. Man, I thought I had my stuff all set up, and now I don't see it. Give me just a quick second to get their wonderful names all on the screen. Because we appreciate them supporting us over at patreon.com/intercutpod, where for
You
as
saw they changed the
little
logo?
I did. How do you feel about that new Patreon logo?
You know, they reprimanded us early on when they told us if you're gonna change it to that little coin, which I didn't even realize, bro. It's the middle one, the one that we just had, was a
Mhm.
coin going in. It's kind of clever.
Yeah,
It's like a
it makes
token.
sense.
It makes sense, and it's still like a P. Now they've gone artsy.
Yeah, it's some weird abstract thing. I mean, sometimes I feel like these companies just change their logos because they get
Just to
too
change
bored,
them.
and they would have been better off just leaving things familiar. I don't know.
You know that intro logo for the film company Pathé or Path,
Yeah,
whatever it is? It
yeah,
looks like that.
yeah,
Either
absolutely.
way, whichever logo it is, we appreciate y'all who support us over there.
Yes. Shout out to the Academy level members who are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Janicia, Tyler, and Benji. And of course, the biggest thanks goes to those producer level patrons, Yuden Veer and Toon.
Oh,
Shout out to
yep.
all of y'all. Thanks for joining us on the last patron hang. We got another patron hang coming up later this month. I don't know if you got time next week or we got to do it the week after.
Might have to
But
be the week after, yeah.
yeah, but maybe it'll be like a Halloween themed patron hang. We can all show
Everyone
up in
come dressed.
costume or something.
We'll come up. We'll come in as the Intercut podcast host.
We got a reliable costume.
Yeah, but it's
But yeah,
always fun. You know, last time we got to catch up with Toon and we were saying some crazy stories, sharing some crazy videos that we were not expecting. But we also get good recommendations, and that's the best part. It's like sometimes we get them in the comments, but having that one-on-one, it's always the best part.
Definitely. So it's a fun thing that we get to do with the patrons, and you can join us too for as little as $1 a month. You also get access to some early looks at Intercut episodes, including the Scorsese Tober videos.
Ooh.
We uploaded the last one early for patrons, and we'll be continuing that this week with our look ahead to what is it? King of Comedy and After Hours this week.
Yep.
Very exciting week on Scorsese Tober. We are doing these throughout the month, and if y'all enjoy them, we'll continue it into future months. Our own little Intercut Film Club, a chance for y'all to catch up on a movie, an older movie, and watch it along with us. I think this is going to be a fun exercise for us to get to look at some classic films or re-look at some classic films.
Yeah, it's also a good way because I know originally we were like, let's do a Scorsese bracket. We looked at that IMDb. We said, let's do a Scorsese.
That's pretty long. Yeah. It's a little bit easier than watching all 32 or whatever for a bracket. But yeah, we had a lot of fun talking about The Wolf of Wall Street last week, and we'll be letting patrons get an early look at our After Hours and King of Comedy rewatch this week. Not too late to watch those films or watch Last Temptation of Christ in silence. Join us next week. But again, you can find more info on all of that over at patreon.com/intercutpod.
Beautiful. Let's get into the picks of the week. All
Let's
of the
do
good
it.
stuff that we have on the horizon that's coming out that we think should be on your list. Starting off with my top 5, I've got a series for Spookytober, you know. There's only one king doll out there, in my opinion. You could keep your Annabelle and everybody else. The only person who really matters is Chucky, dude. And Chucky has come back with his 3rd season. I've been seeing the advertisements because I'm still on 1, but I've been seeing that they've been like, he's like running for president or something. I like this because if you follow the Chucky lore, which I know you probably have, Zach.
Oh, intensely.
It's split. There's the Mutiny ones that is the original guy who is no longer making the movies because of some lawsuits, and that's why they did the Aubrey Plaza one. Don't hate that one, but it's a little different. He's continued his lore from the original Child's Play to everything else through this Chucky series. And it's kind of cool because I think he lost the Child's Play name, but like some people call it Chucky, so now he gets to go full Chucky. So
yeah.
I'm finishing up the 1st season, and I'm going to be watching seasons 2 to 3. That's going to be my spooky stuff to watch because, yeah. Look, Exorcist, Saw, those are great, but I need some laughs. And only one person's giving you laughs, and that's Chucky. So Chucky season 3 over on Peacock. I think it's a sci-fi show, but they post it up over there. And they've been doing a good job putting it episode per episode. Over on Mubi, I have a selection called Passages that we caught early at Sundance. It had a little bit of a limited release in some art house theaters. I think it has some outstanding performances. Ben Whishaw is always great, right? We love Adele. She is fantastic.
Yeah.
But you know it's my boy Franz, dude. He's got a new one at Chicago that I'm going to be catching. It's called Lubo. I don't even know where I'm going to fit it, but I'm going to, like in this movie, I'm going to find a way to get it in there. This movie is like the worst possible person you can follow who's always making mistakes, and it just, you don't like them, but you can't help but be enticed with all of the mistakes that they're making. Really good performances all around. You can catch it on Mubi if you are interested. Another one that is in limited release right now, and I think we're kind of split on it. I came prepped when I saw this in Toronto because I know that Kitty Green has a specific style, and I personally think she's a feminist kind of troll. I think she knows how to play with a script, and I was kind of in for it. For this one, it is about two women who go to get a job that is like you vacation, but you also get paid for being able to travel in certain places, and they go to a place known as a Royal Hotel where they're serving a bunch of minors, and it gets very rowdy. And this is like Implication, the movie. I know a lot of people are going to think it's edging too far on like it being a thriller and it going all the way. That kind of worked for me. It may not work for others, so it may be a rent it for a majority of people. I definitely think I would recommend it as a rent it, but if it's playing at a theater near you, you got the time to watch it. I think they had some good sound design, good performances, and really good cinematography because they get really good shots within that tight location of the bar.
Totally. I would say there's a lot of like really great scenes in this movie. I don't know if I liked as much as you what it added up to, but there's moments for sure.
Like you can come out hating this movie, and I'm not going to tell you like, yeah, I disagree with you. I can see why people did not like it, but I don't know. It kind of worked for me, the thrilling aspect of it.
Yeah.
So catch that one if you're interested. The next one that I have, and I didn't even link it over here, but we've got a new Mike Flanagan, dude. The
Yeah.
Fall of Usher. They sent me a couple of these episodes, so I've had the chance to catch the first three,
Oh,
and
cool.
he's still cooking, dude. This is an adaptation of the Edgar Allan Poe story. And it's Succession, man. This is a
Hmm.
family who runs pharmaceuticals. They have some like creepy, weird horror backstory as well. But it turns out that this pharmaceutical company has been taken to court, and someone in the family, because this is massive, like Succession type family, is a mole, a snitch. And they're trying to figure out who it is. But they may all be dead before they can figure out who it is. Look, I think he's knocking on all cylinders. I'm not on that second half where I've heard that my girl Carla Gugino kills it. They've been teasing her. She's popped up a little bit here and there. I don't think he's been this good since Hill House.
Oh,
I like
okay.
Roy Manor,
Yeah.
but I don't think he's been this good since Hill House. So big recommendation for me on this. It
Very
comes out, I
cool.
think, completely on Netflix October 12th, as you can see right there.
Hmm.
So definitely put this one on your radar. Yeah, no, this is going to be a fantastic one. The Fall of
Yeah.
Usher over on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed these Mike Flanagan next Netflix shows. Like you were saying, I'm not always like quick to jump on horror, but I think he has enough going on in these,
Good
both
characters.
in terms of the visuals, in terms of the ideas that he's playing with those characters, with the themes of it. There's just really enough meat on the bone there that I find myself really drawn to those
Yeah.
stories. And if you're telling me it's as good as those early ones, man, I'm really excited.
I'm glad. I've been wanting to hit like this for a minute, and he's doing it. My final pick is going to be the festival recommendation. We just made a little video about it, but it would be our Chicago picks for the Chicago International Film Festival. It is beginning literally 2 days from now. So if you're in the Chicago area, hit us up for any advice, tips, tricks, all that good stuff on Letterbox. If you follow the show, you already know what movies you should have on your watch list. So I definitely got to put the whole festival as a whole here with all of our links up in terms of our must-watch picks over on the A to Z show.com. But again, you probably know our picks from here or over on Letterbox. So a big shout out to that festival. It is my final pick for the week. Zach, though, has those picks.
I do. I've got 5 picks of my own stuff to watch this weekend. I'm starting out with Anatomy of a Fall, because whether or not this is playing at a festival near you, it is starting its American release. I know it's going to be in theaters, at least in New York and LA this
Mm-hmm.
weekend, which means it'll only start to roll out from there. I saw it over on my A-list app, so it's even going to be in some of the big theaters, hopefully.
Yeah.
It is certainly going to be one of the most interesting movies of the year. Sandra Hüller, in particular, is giving a fantastic performance. This is a movie that just like rides the line of what side are you on? Is this, did this happen or did this not happen? And it walks that tightrope for a full 2 hours masterfully. So
I got one question.
yeah.
Is she better in this or in Zone of Interest?
So I think she has more to do in this film than in Zone of Interest.
Okay.
She's more of a supporting character, and she's fully the lead here in Anatomy of a Fall. But
I'm so
Sandra Hüller
excited.
having quite a year in Anatomy of
It's
a
great.
Fall is
I'm so
the
hyped.
first one. Yeah, yeah. I think
Beautiful.
you're going to really enjoy that one. Let's also talk a little bit about The Mission. I my eyes keep skirting over this one because we saw a documentary at Sundance called The Mission that we are not
Yes, we did.
particularly big fans of. But this is a separate documentary, and this one is directed by none other, co-directed, I should say, by Jesse Moss, who is behind Boys State, along with Amanda McBain, who he did Boys
She
State
also.
with. Yeah.
This
Uh,
was a Telluride pick.
yeah, exactly. So this is a new documentary that takes a look at the life of American Christian missionary John Chow, who tried to contact some indigenous people on a mission and ended up murdered as a result of it. And I just feel like you get documentarians as talented as Jesse Moss and Amanda McBain behind it, that they're going to tell the story in a really compelling way. You know, we were gigantic fans of Boys State, and as you
Yeah.
mentioned, that Telluride Film Fest approval is pretty
It's pretty
significant.
big for me. Yeah.
They tend to only put pretty solid movies there. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious about this documentary.
I see it's limited for y'all. You're probably going to get it because you're in New York.
Yeah.
This will be at Chicago.
There you
So
go.
that limited release week for you guys is gonna end up being the festival week for us over here.
Yeah, whether or not it's near you right now or it will be soon, it's one that you have to start paying attention to, keeping your eye out for, because it might roll out, whether it is to a film festival or a theater near you soon. I think the same can be said for Fantastic Machine, or if
Hey.
we want to go by its full Sundance title, And the King Said. What a fantastic machine. I think you and I were both really taken with this documentary
Oh
out of
yeah.
Sundance, which combines a lot of archival footage, viral videos, live streams, and sorts of stuff into a really interesting essay on like life in modern times, where things are hyper documented, and the fallout and consequences of that. It's certainly like a wide ranging topic, and it touches on a lot of different ideas. But I think for people like us who, not only watch a lot of digital content but produce some of our own, it's a like a fascinating movie.
I liked it a lot. Yeah, this was one of
Yeah.
the ones that I made it all the way up to the Egyptian theater to see. And they had a really cool Q&A. Plus, produced by our boy Ruben Oslin, who
Oh
did
yeah.
Triangle Sadness and Force Majeure.
There you go. Another film that is going to be out, but
We did it
more readily available. It's on VOD.
where it should be.
Yeah, it's down low. Which, look, this was one of the movies at South by Southwest that was maybe flying a little bit under the radar. But when you and I caught it, we kind of loved this one.
Yes, we
It
did.
is a raunchy, ridiculous, wacky, but somehow sincere, moving, beautiful comedy starring Zachary Quinto and notably Lucas Gage, who is absolutely hysterical in this film. Like, if you weren't a fan of Lucas Gage coming in, you absolutely will be coming out of this movie. They are so funny opposite each other as uh, a deeply repressed, newly open gay man and a man he hires to service him, be bond
Human
and
popper.
bond and go through all sorts of debaucherous activities together over the course of a crazy day. Simon Rex shows up and is really hilarious. There's a sequence set to there's like a music video sequence that had us singing the song for like weeks after.
To this day, bro.
That song might still be in my playlists. Yeah.
Yes.
And look, like, not to spoil things, but there the movie made me cry. And
Yeah.
for a vulgar, ridiculous comedy like this to actually get emotion out of me, it must be
Yeah.
doing something right. There's some really good stuff here.
And to give you the warning, this was probably one of the most walked out movies at
Yes.
South by.
It will
So
be
it
too
really
much for a
earns it.
lot of people.
Yeah, but it's because of how crazy it gets that when it breaks through to the other side, which is really the themes of this movie, damn, was it worth it for us. Some of
Yeah.
you may check out, so it's perfect that it's going to be at home.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see if anybody bothers catching up with Down Low, because I want to rewatch that
I want to
movie.
rewatch it too.
Yeah.
With
And
my
then
mom.
my last recommendation in the picks for the week is a bit of a throwback. We were talking before about Alexander Payne, because The Holdovers, his new movie, which I think you'll be catching at Chicago,
Hope
is
to.
one of his best films in a long while. And I heard you say that you hadn't seen Citizen Ruth, which is one of
I
my
have
favorites
not.
of his. It
What's
is
it about?
available to stream over on Paramount Plus. It's a really interesting film starring Laura Dern. She's a young woman who gets pregnant and then sort of ends up at the center of the debate on abortion, just kind of being manipulated to either side of it, for selfish gains. And it's the kind of like wry, uncomfortable but truthful comedy that I think Alexander Payne is so good at directing. And this is like an air text, because this was one of his first films. Laura Dern also
Oh,
just
nice. Okay, Paramount
absolutely
Plus.
incredible in it. But yeah, it's available to stream on Paramount Plus, and I think it's an overlooked but incredible political comedy.
All right. I always like a nice little throwback movie. So running it back,
Yeah.
I got my Chucky series over on Peacock, which is starting at season 3. I think it's still delivering on all the Chucky kills and laughs and gore that they bring in there. Passages over on Mubi, I think, is a perfect horrible person, like worst person in the world type movie where you're following somebody played by one of the best actors I believe that we have right now in France. I also have The Royal Hotel. We're kind of split on it here on the podcast, but hey, ain't that the beauty of movies? Even if you wait for it for when it's on rental, I'd highly check out this thriller that teases you too much. The next one is The Fall of Usher. I'm giving this my full recommendation here. All the episodes are going to be out on Netflix, and it is Flanagan back at it with all of his people, bro. He's like just so comfortable with his entire cast. And then, of course, the Chicago International Film Festival with all of our picks. We got our video, we got our letterboxes, everything you need to know about that. Zach?
Yeah, my picks for this week include Anatomy of a Fall, the Did She, Didn't She Do It French courtroom drama of the year. The Mission, a very intriguing documentary that comes from the directors of Boys State. Fantastic Machine, a look at video in the modern age. That was one of our favorite documentaries out of Sundance. Down Low, an absolutely debaucherous, hilarious comedy starring Zachary Quinto and Lucas Gage. And finally, Citizen Ruth, which is streaming on Paramount Plus, the Alexander Payne political comedy classic starring Laura Dern. And also, I guess we can shout out Montclair Film Fest and Philly Film Fest as well. Whatever is your local film fest, go watch movies. But those are all of our picks for this week.
Beautiful. That's pretty much everything for the show as well. I have no recommendations for you to go see Exorcist Believer, but at least we have some film festival stuff. We've got some good stuff coming out online in streaming. But other than that, you can follow me over at LME Movies on Twitter, on Instagram, definitely on Letterboxd. I've been trying to log my stuff in due time. I know sometimes I'll spaz out and just log like a dozen from South by, but I'm trying to keep, now that I'm all caught up, right?
There
I'm
you go.
trying to make it on a daily basis.
It's just a matter of like getting yourself caught up, and then you can like clean it up from there. Yeah,
not everyone's a sicko like us who are
Letterboxd
sickos.
What's your rate? Are you watching like 10 movies a week? What's your Letterboxd stats right
10
now?
10 movies a day, baby. What you mean? I like how I was like, I'll do these big dumps of like several dozen movies, and I'm gonna reel it back to just 6 movies a day from now on, Zach. But at least it's to the timing of the festivals, not all late about it. But you can follow me there, Zach. Where can they catch more from you?
You can catch more from me on whatever social media you fancy at ZShevich, and find more videos from me at Multiplex Show on YouTube or TikTok.
Beautiful. You can catch every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcatcher is. But you can watch the live show every week here. Big shout out to the chat, to Devesh, to Josh, everybody who was watching here. I know sometimes you guys watch in the future. We appreciate that down below in the comments as well.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, big shout out to all the inner cuties who listen live, and all of the patrons we were just mentioning for all of the hangouts, and also our Scorsese Tober bracket that we've got going on, or not bracket, I was already there trying to compare the two, but the Scorsese little film club that we're doing, our next 2 movies, like we mentioned, are going to be After Hours and The King of Comedy. I am literally so fresh off of these movies. So this is like the first time I'll ever be talking about them. So it's going to be very exciting. Definitely let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Again, big shout out to all the people who go to iTunes and leave us that 5-star review, because that helps us with being able to get more access to screeners, to festivals, to all that good stuff. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow the socials over on Intercut. Check out the Intercut Clips channel, the Intercuts, where we got all of our little bits in case you don't remember when we covered a movie really quick and we didn't make like an after credits. All of the clips, especially from the beginning of the episode, are all put there. All of our festival stuff is chopped up there. So it's a nice little way to be able to get a reminder on any of our quick thoughts from all of the movies that we catch. Because like we just said, we watch too much, bro. Like we went from like single digits to double digits. We got to reel it back, man. One of these festivals, we're going to come out with a big 1-0, 1-0-0.
Yeah, I mean, look, the only thing stopping us from watching like every single film at these festivals is timing. If they just want to increase the length of Sundance, we'll be there for every single one.
Nah, give me half the time, I'll still watch them. I just need access. You give me that access, I'll get it. Again, thank you for watching this show, and until next time, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll see you at the fest.